Yo, what's up, all you burner stoners and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there, Mrs. Weedman?
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
I'm illin'.
Illin' for a chillin' or chillin' with the illin'?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both. Hey, all you vipers out there in the world, hope you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. Mrs. Weedman and I are about to get normal with some Platinum Lemon Cherry Gelato grown by our big friend and our big pal, Big Earl. Platinum Lemon Cherry Gelato is an evenly balanced hybrid strain, 50-50 mid-range there, created through crossing the classic Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies and lemon haze strains. When it comes to the flavor of this celebrity child, the name says it all. Platinum Lemon Cherry Gelato packs sweet and fruity cherry berry flavor with punches of super sour and creamy citrusy lemon. The aroma follows the same profile, although with a touch of rich black pepper, fresh earthiness to it, too. The Platinum Lemon Cherry Gelato high hits you almost as soon as you experience your first delicious exhale, filling your mind with the immediate sense of uplifted euphoria and ease. You'll feel focused with a sense of creative motivation that gets you moving on any task at hand. But you better hurry. This focus will quickly turn heady, leaving you unfocused and giggly at times. With these effects and its super high 27 to 30% average THC level, Platinum Lemon Cherry Gelato is often chosen to treat chronic fatigue, ADHD, or ADHD or ADD, migraines or headaches, depression, and chronic stress. This bud has tight, heart-shaped olive green nugs with thick amber hairs and a coating of frosty, milky amber crystal trichomes. The effects: euphoria, focus, giggly, happy, uplifting, may relieve ADD, ADHD, depression, fatigue, headaches, migraines, stress. The flavors are berry, cherry, fruity, herbal, spicy, and sweet. Aromas are citrus, earthy, fruity, lemon, sour, and spicy. And this is Platinum Lemon Cherry Gelato, grown by our friend Big Earl. Ms. Weedman?
Mr. Weedman.
This is our first episode of 2026.
Yeah.
Super stoked, episode 290.
Yes.
And everybody, just to let y'all know, Mrs. Weedman's been under the weather, and she's pulling out strong to do a show for all of us this week. She had that, which is now being said that Chicago is the number one city in the United States that has the flu A virus, the most in any.
Ding, 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 ding,
yes,
ding.
and Mrs.
That's me.
Weedman has
I'm a champion.
One of many.
I got an A.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been over a week now.
Yes.
And yeah, of course, my body loves to just have a good old respiratory problem.
Right after it.
Yeah. So got through the flu, had a day of reprieve, and then boom, like in an instant, it became respiratory.
Mm-hmm. So, Mrs. Weedman, if you hear a coughing attack, she's going to try to leave the room. We wanted to get an episode out. We didn't want to wait another week or two because it usually lasts Mrs. Weedman a few weeks. So, but because we love you all, we're doing an episode for you. So as we do this episode, Mrs. Weedman is going to tell you a little bit about 8decades.com. 8decades.com. Tell us about it, Mrs. Weedman.
8 Decades is our little baby. It is the brand that we established and created as we evolved the Weedman 420 Chronicles podcast. We wanted to kind of further our work and our efforts to stomp the stigma of cannabis and free the plant. So check us out at EIGHTdecades.com. That is where you will find our shop. You will find swag for our 8 Decades brand. You will find product for the Weedman 420 Chronicles podcast,
Yay.
Links to the show, some information about us and what we do and why we do it.
Yep.
But check us out. 8decades.com.
And as we always say, if you support 8decades.com, you support this show. We're able to do an episode every week for you. Also, check out all of our partners here in Illinois that also, all the dispensaries that carry our brands in their store too. If you want to feel, touch, look, buy, purchase, you can go to the dispensaries too. So check it out, 8decades.com, everybody. Remember when you were a kid and we learned about tongue twisters?
Yeah.
And then you taught our kids and they learned about tongue twisters.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun ones out there, right? So we're kicking off our 2026 with this laid back, curious energy we're all about. We're talking words, not smoke tricks this time, but tongue twisters. That's right. We're diving into tongue twisters, those fun little language labyrinths that twist your tongue up tighter than a fresh pre-roll. Now, you've probably heard classics like Cindy Brady from the Brady Bunch. What was that one?
She sells seashells by the
How'd that
seashore.
go?
She sells seashells by the
That's
seashore.
one of them. What's the other one? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers.
A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked?
There it is right there, the tongue twister.
I lost.
It's all fun and games as we sesh right now. We're going to have some fun with this. But according to the language of science, there's one phrase that took the crown this year in English, and they're saying it's the hardest. And no, it ain't no as long as some of the monster lines in the short, weird, and ridiculous, tricky realm of tongue twisters. But here's the one that they said was one of the hardest this year in the English language. Pad kid poured curd pulled cod. Can you say that 5 times real fast?
I've never heard this.
Me either. Say that 5 times real fast on the next hit, because it might make you choke at the same time. So let's say, ready? Pad kid poured curd pulled cod.
Pad kid poured pulled kid cod? What is that anything? Well, it's not even a sentence.
Pad kid poured curd
Where is
pulled
this?
cod. PADKID POURED CURD pulled cod.
No. Well, I can't find it on the article. Where is it? Number what?
It's there. It's in the article. You got to read it. Ready? Pad kid curd pulled cod.
Are you really getting it right?
I don't know.
I can't even. I gotta find it.
So tongue twisters aren't just goofy games. They've been around for ages and sharpen pronunciations and articulation, except for that one I just said. Whether it's kids playing word games, actors warming up before the take, or people just trying to see who's the slickest talker in the room, these phrases train the vocal muscles and give your speech a workout. So next time you're chilling around the circle, spark up a joint and throw down the tongue twister challenge. Watch jaws and tongues get their tangled up and have some laughs about it. So let's talk about a couple. Let's do a couple.
I got one.
Okay, you got one?
This one, yeah.
Okay.
When a doctor doctors a doctor, does the doctor doing the doctoring doctor as the doctor being doctored wants to be doctored? Or does the doctor doing the doctoring doctor as he wants to doctor?
That's a good one.
That's how I feel as a patient.
That's a good one. Here's a good one. Ready?
Yeah.
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could wood? He would chuck, he would as much as he could, and chuck as much wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck could chuck wood. Here's another one. Ready? Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't very fuzzy, was he? No, but here's the one that I was taught as a kid that my uncle taught me. You have to say this 3 times. I don't know anybody that's ever gotten this one. Ever. Say it 3 times. By the second or third time, you will not get this right. You ready? You got to say toy boat.
Oh, Jesus.
3 times really fast. Ready? Do it.
Toy boat, toy boat, toy boat.
Say it fast.
Toy boat, toy boat, toy boat.
It's pretty good.
Toy boat, toy boat.
You ready?
Always.
You ready? Toy boat, toy boat, toy boat. I think I've been doing that same line for years. So, did you find that one with the pad kid poured curd pulled cod?
Yeah.
You didn't say it yet.
It's okay.
Say it.
I'm a mother pheasant plucker. I pluck mother pheasants. I'm the most pleasant mother pheasant plucker to ever pluck a mother pheasant. I'm not the pheasant plucker. I'm the pheasant plucker's wife. I've been plucking more mother pheasants my whole pheasant plucking life. I'm not the pheasant plucker. I'm the pheasant plucker's mate. I'm only plucking pheasants because the pheasant plucker's late.
Oh,
never heard that one.
Pretty
before.
good though for the first time.
Try to say that fast.
I will not.
No,
I barely can say how much could a woodchuck chuck if woodchuck chuck wood. I mean, could chuck wood or woodchuck chuck wood.
I don't know. Birdie in the sky laid a turdy in my eye. If cows could fly, I'd have a cow pie in my eye.
I would say something, but I might get slapped, so I'll wait for another time
you
to say it.
just stop right there.
I'll stop right there. So tongue twisters, everybody. Have some fun with them. As you're in the car driving, listening to the show, you're going to be saying this stuff in your head. Or if you're at home listening to the show and you're stoned, you're going to be listening going, those mother effers, man. I cannot believe they made me do these tongue twisters while I'm listening and being stoned.
You can thank us later.
Yes. 2026 is in effect. It's January 6th, 2026. It's 6 days in. Hopefully you're enjoying the new year so far, hopefully your first 6 days. Listen, we talked about in the last episode setting some goals, setting some boundaries, doing some things different in life. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Most people fail their goals within the first 24 hours. I know I did my last year. I screwed up. I was supposed to wake up at before 8 o'clock in the morning. I woke up at 8:05. It happens.
Oh,
Don't get frustrated. They're goals. Here's what you want to do. You just want to go live some life. Have some fun. Enjoy it. Put some goals on paper. Write them down. You accomplish them, great. You don't, there's always next year. Just do things that are best for you. So live some fucking life and have some fun. As Mr. Weedman always says. Right, Mr. Weedman?
that's right.
You ready to get this show started?
I'm ready.
Acute effects on cannabis and on core and co-occurring features associated with autism spectrum disorder in adults. All right, so this piece comes from Scientific Reports, an open access journal published by Nature, and dives into something we don't hear talked about enough: the acute effects of cannabis on adults with autism spectrum disorder. The study is titled Acute Effects of Cannabis on Core and Co-occurring Features Associated with Autism Spectrum Disorder in Adults. And it looks at real-world cannabis use, not lab rats or theory. Researchers analyzed self-reported data from autistic adults tracking their cannabis sessions, focusing on how symptoms like sensory sensitivity, repetitive behaviors, mental control, and anxiety change before and after use. This one's heavy on science, but super relevant to the cannabis conversation. So let's break it down. First up, the researchers wanted to understand how cannabis affects people on the autism spectrum, especially right after use. That's the acute effects part. They pointed out that the autism is super complex, with things like sensory sensitivity, repetitive behavior, trouble with mental control, and negative emotions all wrapped up together. There aren't a ton of good pharmaceutical options out there yet, and many folks in the autism community already use cannabis to help manage these symptoms. So the study looked at real cannabis users and how they felt before and after they used cannabis. Here's how they did it. Researchers pulled anonymized data from Strain Print, an app where people track their cannabis sessions and rate how different symptoms feel before and after using. They focused on 111 adults, ages 19 to 70, self-identified as autistic and using inhaled cannabis, smoking, or vaping. They looked at changes in 4 big symptoms clusters: sensitivity, repetitive behaviors, mental control, and negative affect. That means anxiety, irritability, and emotional stuff. Now for the real juice. What they found. Across the board, symptom severity ratings dropped a lot after cannabis use. About 73% total reduction in severity from before to after cannabis. That's big. Let's break it down. Sensory stuff went down roughly 68%. Repetitive behaviors dropped around 70%. Problems with mental control went down around 69%. And negative feelings like anxiety, irritability, nearly 76% reduction. And get this, in 98% of the sessions, symptoms got better rather than stayed the same or got worse. Now, the authors didn't just leave it there. They looked at predictors like dose, age, and cannabinoid breakdowns, THC versus CBD. What they found was wild. Higher dose generally predicted bigger reductions in repetitive behaviors, mental control issues, and negative effects. Interestingly, THC and CBD didn't significantly change outcomes, at least in the data set, which runs a bit counter to what a lot of CBD-centric research would suggest. Older adults showed more relief in sensory symptoms than younger ones, but it's not all about sunshine and rainbows, though. Over time, they noticed that baseline ratings of repetitive behaviors and negative effects actually increased across repeated cannabis use sessions, which might mean that people self-medicating over time could see some of those symptoms get worse if you just look at the raw tracking data. It's a complicated picture. Are there real symptoms changes or change? And how folks tolerate or rate their symptoms over time? That's still up in the air. And of course, the research throws out the standard academic reminders. This wasn't a controlled clinical trial. It's real people in the real world, which is dope, but it also means we got to be cautious. There were no clinician verified diagnoses for everyone. And some folks might overrepresented because people who don't feel benefit just stop tracking. So, what's the takeaway? If we're talking acute cannabis effects on autism symptoms, there's real evidence here that many autistic adults report noticeable relief right after inhaling cannabis, especially at the higher dose. But it's also clear that this isn't a one size fits all therapeutic cure, and long term patterns raise more questions than answers. Real data with real talk. Pretty good stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Hopefully, they get some more real data, more research, as we always say, and they do some more in house clinical trials where
Mhm.
they can be monitored.
Mhm.
I think that'd be great. And we know how autism is getting worse, right? It's not getting any better,
It's more
right?
common. Yeah.
More common than we
Mm.
were younger. I think what are they saying? One in every 10,000. No, it was one in every 10,000 back in the 70s. Now it's one in every 31
Mhm.
have autism, right? Or born with,
They're on the spectrum.
yeah, on the spectrum. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, small studies finds microdoses of cannabis stalled cognitive decline in Alzheimer's patients. That's big news, Mrs. Weeman.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
As the world's population ages, the number of people living with dementia, such as Alzheimer's disease, increases. Given the lack of curative treatments and the limited effectiveness of available medications, interest in new therapeutic approaches is growing. Among them are cannabinoids from the cannabis plant. A small new Brazilian study published in the International Journal of Alzheimer's Disease investigated the effects of microdoses of cannabis extract on patients with mild Alzheimer's disease. The results found positive effects without the associated high of cannabis. The study, led by Professor Francisni Nascimento and colleagues at the Federal University of Latin American Integration, recruited 24 elderly patients aged 60 to 80, diagnosed with mild Alzheimer's. It evaluated the effects of daily use of an oil prepared from cannabis extract containing CBD and THC in similar proportions and extremely low concentrations. These subpsychoactive doses do not cause the high associated with recreational use of the plant. The extract used was donated by Abrace, Brazil's biggest patient association, and had no contribution from cannabis companies or other funding sources. Microdosing is a term usually associated with the recreational use of psychedelics. Given the size of the dose, it would be easy to question whether it would have any effect at all. Doses below 1 milligram of the cannabinoid compounds are not frequently reported in the literature of clinical practice. However, the researchers' decision to use microdosing did not come out of nowhere. In 2017, the group led by Andreas Zimmer and Andres Bilkai Gorzo had already demonstrated that very low doses of THC restored cognition in elderly mice, reversing gene expression patterns and brain synapse density in the hippocampus to levels similar to those of young animals. Subsequently, other studies in mice reinforced that the endocannabinoid system, which is important for neuroprotection and regulates normal brain activity, undergoes a natural decline during aging. Inspired by these findings, the group initially tested microdosing of cannabis extract in a single patient with Alzheimer's disease for 22 months. They found cognitive improvement, assessed using the ADAS-Cog scale, a set of tasks using things like word recall to test cognitive function. This triggered the decision to run a more robust clinical trial in human volunteers to verify the cognitive enhancement effects observed in the volunteer. The second study was a properly controlled, randomized, and double-blinded clinical trial. What was found? Well, several clinical scales were used to objectively measure the impact of cannabis treatment. This time, the improvement was observed in the Mini Mental State Exam, or the MMSE scale, a widely used scale for assessing cognitive function in patients with dementia. It's a validated set of questions that are asked the patient with the aid of an accompanying person. After 24 weeks of treatment, the group receiving the cannabis extract showed stabilization in their scores, while the placebo group showed cognitive deterioration. The impact was modest but relevant. Patients using cannabis microdosing scored 2 to 3 points higher than their placebo counterparts. In patients with preserved or moderately impaired cognitive function, it may be unrealistic to expect major changes in just a few weeks. Cannabis extracts did not improve other non cognitive symptoms like depression, general health, or overall quality of life. On the other hand, there was no difference in adverse side effects. This was likely due to extremely low doses that were used. This result echoes findings from a 2022 study, which found a reduction in endocannabinoid signaling during aging, meaning aging brains are more prone to cognitive degradation without the protection of the cannabinoids. Among other mechanisms, cannabinoids seem to protect cognition by reducing drivers of inflammation in the brain. A new paradigm, cannabis without the high. The biggest obstacle to the acceptance of cannabis as a therapeutic tool in brain aging is perhaps not scientific, but cultural. In many countries, the fear of getting high deters many patients and even healthcare professionals. But studies show as the but studies such as this show there are ways to get around this problem by using doses so low that they do not cause noticeable changes in consciousness, but which can still modulate important biological systems, such as inflammation and neuroplasticity. Microdoses of cannabis can escape the psychoactive zone and still deliver benefits. This could open the door to new formulations focused on prevention, especially in more vulnerable populations, such as elderly people with mild cognitive impairment or a family history of dementia. So, what now? Despite its potential, the study also has important limitations. The sample size is small, and the effects were restricted to one dimension of the cognition scale. Still, the work represents an unprecedented step. It is the first clinical trial to successfully test the microdose approach in patients with Alzheimer's disease. It is a new way of looking at this plant in treatment of important diseases. To move forward, new studies with a larger number of patients, longer follow up times, and in combination with biological markers such as neuroimaging and inflammatory biomarkers will be necessary. Only then will it be possible to answer the fundamental question: can cannabis slow down the progression of Alzheimer's disease? We have taken an important step toward understanding this, but for now, the question remains unanswered.
Unanswered.
But that's very
It
positive
is very
information.
positive.
Yeah.
And good stuff. So this next article comes from Marijuana Moment, and it's about a newly federally funded study on medical marijuana use among people with disabilities. The research looks at how common cannabis is in that community and, importantly, what people are actually using it for, especially the role it plays in pain relief and symptom management. All right, so here's what's up. Researchers pulled data from the National Survey of Health and Disability, which covered nearly 2,000 adults who self-identified as living with a disability. They looked at how many reported current cannabis use and why. What they found: cannabis use is widespread across disability groups, and one of the biggest reasons people are reaching for it is pain relief. Alex talks numbers because the stats here really hit. About 1 in 5 adults in the survey said they currently use cannabis. And when asked, what are they using it for? The most common answer by far was relief from pain, with over 70% of saying that's the reason they use it. Right behind that, more than 60% said marijuana helps them relax or relieve tension. And folks didn't stop at pain and tension. Participants also reported using cannabis for stuff like migraines, nausea, muscle spasms, seizures, mental health concerns, and sleep disturbances. This is pretty deep because a lot of people with disabilities are dealing with chronic, multifaceted symptoms that aren't always well managed by traditional meds. And cannabis seems to be filling that gap for a lot of individuals. The study just didn't focus on one type of disability. It included limitations related to cognition, hearing, independent living, mobility, self care, and vision, showing that cannabis use spans a wide range of experiences. Now, before we go way too heavy into the celebratory smoke sesh, the researchers did throw a note of caution. This data is self reported, which means it's based on the participants said about their own usage and reasons. So there's room for interpretation. And it may not fully be representative of every demographic group in the U.S. Most folks in the survey were white, female, college educated, and relatively affluent, which could skew how we generalize these results. But even with those limits, this is one of the largest slices of evidence we've gotten showing how common and meaningful cannabis use is among people with disabilities. The study itself was funded by a grant from the National Institute of Disability, Independent Living and Rehabilitation Research, part of the National Institutes of Health. So we're not talking corporate hype here. We're talking federally backing for data that actually reflect real people's lives. So here's the takeaway, or what's the takeaway? For a lot of folks living with disabilities, medical marijuana isn't some fringe option. It's a prevalent part of their health toolkit, especially for dealing with pain and tension. And these are just anecdotal vibes. This comes from actual government-funded survey with big sample size. That's the breakdown for Marijuana Moment. This has got some real data, real people, with real relief, Mrs. Weedman. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
I mean, I smoke weed because I love it, but I also smoke weed because of my back. I smoke it to help me go to sleep. I help it to just relax. That's why I love it. Why do you smoke it?
For many, many reasons.
Yeah.
If I'm stressed out, it calms me. If I am trying to work and get things done that are just task oriented, it helps me stay focused. It helps relieve headaches, body pain, helps me sleep. I mean, we can go on and on. But yeah.
The list goes on and on.
Yeah. So many. And I just freaking love it.
Yeah, that's the love.
That's at the bottom of it all.
Yeah.
Or the top.
Oh, the top.
And everywhere in between. That's the glue.
The big heart.
It's the mortar. Yeah.
Our furry animal friends, our doggies.
Yeah.
We all love our dogs. Here's the thing that we've talked about this.
Yes, we
haven't talked much on the show. We've talked about like giving your dog raw cannabis or giving your dog edibles and all that kind of stuff. But we've never really talked about secondhand smoke with dogs.
Right.
And it was funny because the other night we were smoking, and Yuki's always around when we're smoking at night before we go to bed. We're either in the living room or in the studio. And usually Yuki's laying on the floor next to us, or we're playing with her while we're smoking and whatever, petting her. And a couple times I've blown smoke in her face, and I'm like, oh, shit. I don't know if it's good or bad. Remember, and I think you've done it too, and be like, oh, I'm sorry, Yuki.
Yeah, like you just exhale your hit, and then it's like, oh, she's right there. Duh.
And she's always there. Right. Just so you all know, Yuki is always there. Always. I don't wish you
where she is right now, but
I think she's in the room next door, laying on the bed. But she's always there. And when Mrs. Weedman and I are in separate areas, she's usually in the middle. Like
she's usually near a door.
Right.
Where she kind of has an eye on
both of us.
Yeah. So she knows we can't go out the door without her.
She's always there. And I love it. Sometimes it's like, okay, go lay down, please, for a minute, but it's just who she is. But can dogs get high from secondhand smoke?
Well, let's read about it.
What to know? Tell us about it, Ms. Weedman.
For many pet owners, cannabis has become a part of everyday life, whether for recreational or medicinal purposes. While most of us enjoy it responsibly, questions have emerged about how cannabis exposure might affect our furry companions. Can dogs get high from secondhand smoke? How much exposure is dangerous? What should responsible pet owners do to keep their pets safe? Well, before diving into the science, it's important to emphasize that cannabis products should always be stored safely, out of reach of your pets. Accidental indigestion, not I can read. Acci Accidental ingestion can
It could
quickly
get
turn
it
dangerous.
it could give him indigestion.
Yes. Thank you. This article explores how dogs interact with cannabis, the risks of secondhand marijuana smoke, and what to do if a dog ingests cannabis. Dogs, like humans, have an endocannabinoid system, a network of receptors that interact with cannabinoids. Interestingly, dogs have more cannabinoid receptors in their brains than humans, which makes them particularly sensitive to THC, the psychoactive compound in marijuana. Some pet owners administer CBD, which is not overly psychoactive to most, and it will help with anxiety, arthritis, joint pain, or inflammation. While CBD is generally well tolerated in proper doses, THC is a different story. Even small amounts of THC may be toxic to dogs, leading to marijuana intoxication. Symptoms may include lethargy, uncoordinated movements, urinary incontinence, vomiting, and in severe cases, seizures or life threatening complications. It's crucial to distinguish between CBD products formulated for pets and human use cannabis products. The human use products may contain levels of THC that are dangerous for dogs. Responsible pet owners should always check labels and avoid giving their pets any products that contain THC. Despite the best precautions, accidents can still occur. If your dog ingests cannabis or shows sign of marijuana intoxication, immediate action is vital. Symptoms of THC toxicity in dogs typically appear within an hour of ingestion and may include disorientation, excessive drooling, tremors, vomiting, urinary incontinence, and unusual vocalizations. If you suspect your dog has ingested marijuana, call your veterinarian or an animal poison control center immediately. They can advise on whether supportive care at home is sufficient or if your pet requires veterinary intervention. In some cases, veterinarians may administer activated charcoal to limit further absorption of THC from the gastrointestinal tract. Supportive care during that includes intravenous fluids, monitoring body temperature, and providing a safe, quiet environment is often necessary until the effects of THC wear off. Time is critical, and prompt attention can prevent serious complications. Do not attempt to induce vomiting unless specifically instructed by a professional. This can worsen certain situations depending on the form of cannabis ingested. While the dog's endocannabinoid system makes them more sensitive to cannabinoids, research indicates that secondhand marijuana smoke poses less risk than direct ingestion. The effects of THC from inhaled smoke are generally milder, but exposure is still not without risk. Studies on secondhand marijuana smoke in dogs are limited, but existing research in animals and anecdotal veterinary reports suggest that prolonged or heavy exposure could result in mild signs of marijuana intoxication. Symptoms may include lethargy, mild disorientation, and loss of coordination. Smoking around your dog can cause respiratory issues too, and it can increase the risk of cancers such as nasal and bladder cancer, and it may trigger behavioral changes like anxiety or aggression. The risks are greater in smaller dogs, and even small amounts of THC can have noticeable effects due to their lower body weight and higher concentration of cannabinoid receptors in their brains. Responsible pet owners should avoid smoking cannabis around their dogs. If exposure occurs, ensure good ventilation and remove your dog from the area. While brief exposure to secondhand marijuana smoke is unlikely to cause severe toxicity, in most dogs, it's not recommended to test the limits. It's also worth noting that edible cannabis products are particularly dangerous. If a dog ingests marijuana in baked goods or candies, the effects are more severe and longer lasting than inhalation. If the edible contains chocolate or other ingredients toxic to dogs, call animal poison control or your vet immediately. Dogs have more cannabinoid receptors in their brains. making them highly sensitive to THC, and even small amounts can lead to intoxication with symptoms like urinary incontinence, as we've already said, disorientation, and lethargy. Never intentionally expose your dog. All right, this is getting a little bit redundant. So, ultimately, the safest approach is prevention. Keep cannabis products out of reach and avoid smoking around your pets. So, erring on the side of caution helps ensure that your pet will remain happy, healthy, and free from THC effects.
There you go. Keep your furry friends safe.
Yeah,
Yeah. CBD, make sure it's not full spectrum because there is
THC in there.
traces of THC. So make sure it's isolate, which has only just CBD in there, right? As we mean.
Mm-hmm.
So, political, state, and business news. Cannabis is gaining ground as a favored alternative to alcohol while traditional drinking softens. Gen Z is drinking far less, choosing weed or moderation instead. Meanwhile, Jim Beam is pausing production at his historic Kentucky distillery amid slowing spirits demand and overflowing bourbon warehouses. Whether that's cannabis taking its first alcohol victim is still up for debate, but the culture shift is real. Now, people are blaming tariffs and stuff going over to Canada and all this stuff, but it is true. Gen Z, especially Gen Z women, are not drinking at all. Very, very, like, they're cutting it out of their life.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. Alcohol, you know,
It's not as great as we thought it was.
I like a beer. I'm not going to say I don't, but I don't really. When was the last time you see me drink hard liquor?
Right.
It's been a very long time since I've had a drink, but I'll always have a beer. But, I don't drink anymore. Just hangovers suck. Waking up with my pants unbuttoned and,
Get out of here.
Not knowing what happened.
What happened to me?
Mrs. Weedman took advantage of me. Anyway, so yes, so it is. Alcohol is on the decline right now. For vets, cannabis support isn't about cameo coupons; it's about real access. Many companies flash patriotic marketing, but veterans struggle to afford medical evaluations and state fees, blocking access before discounts ever kick in. True support means covering doctor consults and renewal costs and partnering with nonprofits to actually get vets into medical programs, remove barriers, not just sell stickers. And this is for Veterans Day that's going to be coming up here soon, and how we use Veterans Day, and not just the cannabis industry. All industries use Veterans Day as a marketing tool for sales. Not right. Colorado legal weed game is at nearly a $1 billion sales year in 2025, and it's driving almost $200 million in tax and fee revenue for the state. Money that Governor Jared Polis says supports jobs, schools, and keeps the cartels on the fringe. With sales still climbing into year's end, Colorado's cannabis economy keeps moving. It's more than a plant party. It's a straight-up state infrastructure fuel. Even with President Trump's executive order pushing marijuana rescheduling, Department of Transportation says safety-sensitive workers, pilots, truckers, bus drivers will still be tested for weed under current rules. DOT says nothing changes until rescheduling is finalized, and cannabis still counts as a Schedule I drug under the federal regs. So far, federal drugs test ain't budging. Illinois regulators are moving to clarify cannabis dispensary location rules, tightening how the 1,500-foot buffer between shops is measured, and defining exactly what counts as an existing dispensary under the adult use cannabis rules, including how property lines are used for those measurements. The changes would make it easier for conditional licenses to open up once they meet their spacing requirements. A Schaumburg, Illinois family's 19-year-old daughter lost access to a specific medical cannabis patches that kept her seizure-free from 8 years after the maker had left Illinois. And current law blocks bringing cannabis across state lines. They've launched a Change.org campaign pushing for legal fixes so they can get legally her medicine without risking federal charges. Teens aren't lighting up more just because weed laws are loosening. Federal health data shows marijuana use among 8th, 10th, and 12th graders stayed about the same as legalization expanded nationwide. Rates for senior year use hit roughly 25.7%, matching recent trends and hitting a 3-decade low. While younger grades stayed steady too, that undercuts the old legalization equals more teen use fear. Nice. See?
CC.
Idaho's cannabis fight is heating up for 2026. Activists are gathering signatures for medical marijuana ballots, but the state's legislature put House Joint Resolution 4 on the ballot, too. The amendment would strip voters' power to legalize cannabis, leaving it only to lawmakers. No, 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 no. That's not what the laws were made for in this country. So Idahoans could see both legal as weed for medical medicine and block voter legalization questions at once. President Trump's push to relax federal marijuana rules, asking the DOJ to reclassify cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, is stirring fresh legalization talks in Indiana State House and even among some conservatives. Supporters see it as a chance to update Hoosier laws, but no legalization bills have been filled yet, and opponents remain skeptical about moving forward. Trump's executive order on cannabis rescheduling also tells Congress to delay the hemp ban implementation, so full spectrum CBD access isn't lost next year. The op-ed argues lawmakers must extend the timeline and fix the hemp definition now, or millions who rely on CBD for relief will be cut off. The message: don't rush the ban, legislate real access. Now, over to you, Mrs. Weedman. Passing that
Yes.
J.
Federal health programs could cover up to $500 worth of hemp-derived CBD per year for eligible patients, like Medicare seniors, starting by April, if their doctor recommends it. It's part of a new pilot initiative announced by Dr. Oz under the directives tied to federal cannabis policy changes. It's meant to help with pain and other conditions, with outcomes tracked for possible future expansion. Ohio cannabis activists are pushing a referendum to block SB 56, a new law that would roll back voter approved marijuana rights and limit hemp sales to dispensaries. They've submitted initial signatures and now need about 250,000 more to put it on the ballot. Supporters say SB 56 recriminalizes cannabis, guts consumer protections, and ignores the will of the voters. Mike Tyson and Ric Flair just filed a federal lawsuit targeting their former cannabis partners at Karma Holdco and Legends, alleging a brazen racketeering conspiracy with wire fraud, embezzlement, money laundering, extortion, and securities fraud that siphoned millions from their Tyson 2.0 and Ric Flair drip brands. They're seeking over $50 million in damages as a legal battle heats up in court. Congressional researchers say Trump's marijuana rescheduling order isn't a done deal. The DOJ hasn't finalized the move to Schedule 3, and there's a real chance the Justice Department could slow it down or start over before it's official. Until that final action happens, cannabis technically stays a Schedule 1 drug under federal law.
Boo.
Yeah, how about it? The Smart and Safe Florida legalization campaign just sued the state, saying Secretary of State Cord Byrd improperly directed election officials to invalidate about 71,000 petition signatures, roughly 42,000 from inactive voters and 29,000 from out-of-state collectors, as a February 1 deadline to submit 880,062 valid signatures looms. They argue this could wreck their bill to get recreational cannabis on the 2026 ballot. A Florida GOP bill would expand the state's medical marijuana program by waiving registration fees for honorably discharged veterans and extending patient card renewals from 1 year to 2. It also increases how much supply doctors can certify for patients, potentially boosting access and reducing costs for vets and regular medical users alike as lawmakers' eyes broaden cannabis reforms. Let's see. Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz and the Office of Cannabis Management signed a tribal state cannabis compact with the Bois Forte Band of Chippewa, the 7th such agreement. The pact aims to expand a safe, equitable cannabis market while supporting sovereignty, economic opportunity, jobs, and public health. All compacts include commitments to product testing and data gathering to ensure consistent standards across Minnesota's cannabis landscape. Trump's federal marijuana rescheduling push isn't exactly catching fire in deep red Wyoming, where GOP leaders still oppose both medical and recreational cannabis and reaffirm their no tolerance stance, even as Trump directs a move from from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. Local MAGA figures say Wyoming has no appetite for weed reform. They're sticking to old school prohibition views.
So stupid.
So dumb. Nebraska's Cannabis Trade Alliance just formed as a statewide group pushing for a safe, compliant, patient-first medical cannabis program focused on healthcare access, regulatory integrity, licensing standards, oversight, quality control, and working with policymakers and regulators. They want Nebraska's medical system built around patient welfare, public trust, and long-term program stability. Meanwhile, Kentucky's first legal medical cannabis dispensary sold every last gram in just 7 days, exhausting its inventory and forcing a temporary closure. A sign of huge patient demand and tight supply as the state's new system ramps up. Patients lined up for regulated access, but growers are still growing their inventories, so the limited supplies are selling fast.
Stay strong, Kentucky. It'll get better.
Yeah. San Diego's big plan to bump local cannabis taxes backfired a bit. The city expected about $21.3 million, but now projects roughly $19.7 million from its cannabis business tax. Officials say illegal market competition and lower wholesale prices from oversupply are eating revenue, proving higher taxes can push buyers away instead of filling the coffers.
Absolutely.
And that's it from my state and political and business news, Mr. Weedman. It's back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
New Jersey's medical marijuana program enrollment keeps sliding, dropping another 20%. In 2025, as adults use sales boom, roughly 14,000 patients left their cards lapse, leaving about 51,776 registered users, far below the 130,000 peak before recreational weed arrived. Unlike other states, New Jersey still bans home grow, which may be contributing to patient exodus. Tennessee Freedom to Farm Act would let one adult per household grow up to 15 marijuana plants at home. Tennessee, here I come. 5 adult, 5 intermediate, 5 budding for personal use, with state-issued grower cards and seeds sold through the state co-op. Selling still stays illegal, and breaking rules brings criminal penalties. Representative Parkinson says it's boosts access and keeps the government out of personal business. Oh boy, I hope that happens for you, Tennessee, to where you just control it yourself. Get yourself a card, grow some plants, have some fun with your friends. Ooh, you will love it. Oklahoma's new medical marijuana law requires physicians to complete medical marijuana-specific education registered with the OMMA before they can start issuing recommendations beginning January 1st, 2026. Docs must meet training standards, be in good standing, and can't be at a dispensary address to sign forms, all aimed at tightening oversight and professionalism in the program. Most marijuana consumers hate the idea of the federal hemp THC ban tucked into the spending bills that Trump signed last fall. A new poll shows 4 in 5 users oppose recriminalizing THC hemp products, even as rescheduled and CBD access orders move forward. That reflects widespread resistance to rolling back to full-spectrum hemp and disconnect between policy writers and what consumers actually want. You vote these people in, they put this on the docket, you got to vote them out. Call your congressmen, call your congresswoman, call your state senators, call your federal senators, call them all. Write to the president. You have until November of 2026 to fix this bill. Fix it. And tell that doofus from fucking Kentucky, can't even Mitch McConnell, that he sucks. And that when you're writing the letter too, because it's all his fault. North Carolina's outdated marijuana laws won't stop Virginians buying legal weed once Virginia's adult use retail market launches. Folks will just drive across the border, leaving North Carolina with lost tax revenue, strained enforcement, and no regulatory control. This mismatch highlights that prohibition doesn't cut demand, and without coherent rules, black markets and inconsistent enforcement will keep thriving instead of sensible systems. Okay, North Carolina, haven't you watched these markets? I guess not, because if you look at all the states that don't have recreational or medical weed, they go to the state that's over to them. Look at the great state of Indiana. They either come to Illinois or they go to Michigan. Look at the people of Kentucky before it went medical. They would come to Illinois. They would go to Ohio. They would go to Michigan. Look at the people before, when Colorado was the only state around. Every state around them was going to Colorado, right? If you look at Texas, they go to New Mexico. They go to Vegas. They go to where they can get their weed. Haven't you learned anything yet? All you states that don't allow cannabis? Oh, foolish ones. You will learn one day. The U.S. Supreme Court has set oral arguments for March 2nd in a major case over a federal ban that stops people who use marijuana from buying or possessing firearms, a law lower courts have already clashed over. The outcome could decide whether cannabis users' Second Amendment rights survive federal prohibition. New York's officials are hyping the $2.5 billion in adult use cannabis sales since legalization, with the state also expanding licenses, boosting manufacturing, and growing social equity opportunities. They say that legal markets scaling up, tax revenue flowing, and more regulated businesses are opening, showing New York's rollout is gaining steam despite past rollout complaints and delays. I think last month, another 37 dispensaries got licensed to open. Crazy, just growing fast. They want like 1,200 licenses in that state. So that'll be a $4 billion industry eventually if they don't fuck it up. Massachusetts weed prices are crashing to record lows with an average $14.20 per eighth as supply floods the market and retailers race to the bottom to compete. Hey, welcome to another state killing their cannabis sales for price compression. Love it. 4-year supply growth has pushed costs down to about 2/3, pleasing consumers but squeezing margins. Regulatories and shops are watching closely as the market finds its balance between surplus and demand. Despite Trump's executive order to speed up marijuana rescheduling, the DA says the appeal process is still pending, with no briefing schedule set, dragging out delays nearly a year later. Opponents have even hired Bill Barr to try reversing it, and researchers note DOJ could restart the entire process. For now, federal rescheduling remains stalled. All right, everybody. Big news in the cannabis world. Big news in the cannabis world. I'm going to say it one more time. Big news in the edible world. 2 powerhouses of edible companies joined forces, the Batman and Superman of the edible world. Wild, an Oregon company, along with another Oregon company, Grown, in a major edible industry deal, joining 2 of the cannabis edible categories leaders. Most of the states, they're 1 and 2. They're in the top 5 everywhere you go, whatever states they're in. Wild is just a leader of the pack. It's a $355 million company. I think Grown is a $150 million company, to where now they're just going to be, top edible company in the United States. In every state, they were 1 and 3 or 2 and 3, and just put them all to number 1 now because they joined forces. Their sales will collide. It's crazy. But let's see. Joining the 2 cannabis edible company leaders in expanding distribution, innovation, and quality reach across the U.S. and Canada, Grown keeps its brand identity and products, while Wild adds scale, resources, and retail access. Together with Good Tide, which is Wild's hash rosin gummy, they aim to lead the $4.8 billion edibles market without changing what fans already love. So, give you my opinion on this, ladies and gentlemen, burners, stoners, and potheads, and all you humans out there. I've seen this before. I'm happy that these 2 companies came together and didn't get bought out by a major MSO or a major company. Like, I'll talk about this, like the beer industry, and you've seen some cannabis companies get bought out by major industries on the hemp-derived cannabis side of things. And what I like to say about these 2 companies were privately entities, and they joined forces for stability, for one, to keep kicking everybody's ass in the edible game in the marketplace, to say fuck you to all you MSOs and multi-integrated companies out there, your big corporate cannabis Chads, Brads, and Tads out there. You couldn't buy them. Couldn't buy them. They joined forces to take you on. So what you gonna do when the forces of these edible companies come after you? And they're going to keep on coming. And they're going to keep on coming. They're powerhouses now. with strong teams. I think something like 1,200 or 1,400 employees between both companies. It's a lot. Now, here's my devil's advocate, okay? Because I have to do it. I came from the brewery world. Mrs. Weedman knows this story. I came from the brewery world. 12 long years. Started with a distributor for a few years and then went into working for one of the greatest craft breweries until they got bought out of all times, Lagunitas Brewing Company. Okay, you've heard me tell you about me working for them. I got into the beer because of craft beer that I fell in love with in the early 2000s. And had always had some craft beers. You had one here, one there. Had some, in the 90s, but there wasn't very many. But you had one. Oh, this is good. But the mid 2000s is where I really fell in love with craft beer and started learning about it. In 2013, when I started working for Lagunitas Brewing Company, there was maybe 1,800 craft breweries. By the time I was done in the craft beer industry, there was almost 9,000 craft breweries, oversaturated, kind of like the edible market. A lot of brands out there, kind of saturated. In Illinois alone, there's 166 edible brands just in Illinois. Just think about all the other states, okay? Now, give you something here. When the craft beer height from 2013 to 2018, when craft beer was untouchable, especially from 2013 to 2016, untouchable. Lagunitas Brewing Company, Sam Adams, oh my God, the list can go on and on. Ballast Point. Here's a perfect example, okay? All right. So all these craft breweries are running amok, destroying the macro industry, like taking market share and beating them up, right? And people really starting to, them hiring big teams to promote their brands throughout the country. Lagunitas became the number one of the top craft breweries in the market. Sam Adams, over 1 million barrels a year, just crazy numbers, taking market share. It comes to a point where you either can keep on going or you sell out. Or you consolidate and partner with other brands and you buy smaller brands that have market share, right? And this is what happened in the craft beer industry, which you're going to start seeing now more and more in the cannabis world, okay? Here's why. You either join forces with mom and pop shops and you become a powerhouse like Wild and Grown did, or you sell out to a bigger company and you're like, I'm done. I can't do this no more. Like you saw with Wana selling, right? And which you also see major MSO companies, which would be called your macro brands that are maybe in more than one state. They're in maybe 10 states, 15 states. They have dispensaries backing them up that they own also, which is called a multi-state operator, vertically integrated. So you have that. With beer, it was the same thing. You either sold out, you bought in, or you were a larger craft brewery that bought a bunch of smaller breweries to use those breweries to make your beer in and then help them get better at their beer. Here's the kicker. I'll give you a perfect example. Ballast Point. Okay? One of the hottest craft breweries, 2013 to 2015, sold to Constellation for $1 bazillion. $1 billion. It was the first major, huge buyout. We were all like, holy shit, especially working for Lagunitas. We never thought we would sell. And, thinking, oh, we're untouchable now. Ballast Point sold. They're going to get their asses chewed out by every craft drinker out there that's loyal to the game. And like 2 years later, they fell apart. Ballast fell apart. And they sold that brand back to the original owners for like $10 million. Now I'll give you another example. Highlight, right? Heyday, Lagunitas Brewing Company. Perfection. Everything about them. Not only because I worked for them, because they were just an amazing company. Okay? 2015, we get the word that they're selling to Heineken. Half of the company is being sold to Heineken for international distribution. Okay? We were like, okay. We were all pissed, but we were like, okay, we get it. You know, they're going to help us with international, which we can't do. It's impossible to get your beers internationally. Heineken's a powerhouse in what 180 countries around the world. They have breweries all around the world. They bought breweries all around the world, so they know what they were doing. So we decided to join forces with a powerhouse like Heineken. 2017, they bought the whole company out for, let's just say, close to $1 billion. Okay? Here's the deal. Lagunitas fell apart 2 years, 3 years later. They're not the same brewery they were. Okay? It happens when you have a major company buy a smaller company out and try to take away what got them to the dance, and you bring them into your dance. It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. It's so many breweries were brought up from 2015 to 2020. It doesn't work. Your culture is not their culture. Okay? So the same thing you're going to start seeing, and you have seen it in the cannabis world. What I enjoy about reading this is you have two powerhouse independent companies that weren't owned by a major company coming together to become a major powerhouse in the edible industry, and they're going to shit on some people. It's going to be funny to watch. Keep an eye on it out there. So congratulations, Wild and Gruen, partnering powerhouse companies. I want to see what's going to happen in the future. I'm looking forward to see you shit on a lot of companies around the country because you're Wild's. I looked on their website. Wild's one of their mantras is blaze your own trail. Right. So bringing that with Gruen, which is a powerhouse, Mrs. Weedman, it's going to be very, very interesting to watch this.
It is.
In the upcoming years to come when they implement together and see what happens. Could be $1 billion company one time between both of them as the industry grows and as now they get in more states, because if Wild's in a state, Groen's going to now get in there. If Wild was in a state, which I don't think they are, that Gruen is in, now Wild can get in there.
Right.
So it's just a good combination. So good luck to both of them. And we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on it for everybody. So 2026, right? The year that I grew up. No, wait, I'm sorry. The year that cannabis supposedly is going to grow up. And what's next for cannabis in 2026?
Yeah.
Right? Tell us about it, Ms. Weedman.
The U.S. cannabis industry enters the new year at a crossroads, shaped by federal policy debates, state-level legislative reviews, and growing public acceptance of marijuana as both a consumer product and a medical treatment. The year ahead could bring some of the most consequential changes the industry has seen in decades. So what is next for cannabis in 2026? At the center of the national conversation is whether marijuana will be rescheduled under federal law. Currently classified as a Schedule I substance alongside heroin, cannabis is defined as having no accepted medical use. That designation has long conflicted with state medical programs and emerging scientific research. Federal agencies are now formally reviewing whether marijuana should be moved to Schedule III, a change that would acknowledge medical value and significantly alter how cannabis businesses are taxed and regulated. A rescheduling decision would not legalize marijuana nationwide, but it could ease restrictions on research, improve access to banking services, and remove a major tax burden faced by licensed operators. While momentum has grown, federal officials have not finalized a decision, making 2026 a critical year to watch for regulatory clarity. Another major issue unfolding for the year involves hemp-derived THC beverages, which surged in popularity as alcohol alternatives. These drinks, often sold outside licensed cannabis dispensaries, exist in a gray area created by the 2018 Farm Bill. New federal and state proposals aim to redefine what qualifies as legal hemp, potentially restricting or eliminating intoxicating hemp products altogether. Some states are moving to regulate hemp drinks like alcohol, while others are considering outright bans. The outcome would reshape the beverage market, impact small hemp businesses, and determine whether THC drinks remain widely available or move exclusively into regulated cannabis systems. If federal rescheduling moves forward, it is expected to unlock greater medical research funding and streamline approval for clinical trials. For decades, cannabis research has lagged due to regulatory hurdles. Medical professionals and researchers are increasingly studying cannabis for its potential benefits in treating or alleviating symptoms related to chronic and neuropathic pain, cancer related nausea and appetite loss, epilepsy and seizure disorders, post traumatic stress disorder, multiple sclerosis, anxiety and sleep disorders, inflammatory and autoimmune conditions. And more funding could lead to standardized dosing, clearer safety guidelines, and wider acceptance within mainstream medicine. At the state level, cannabis remains a legislative priority for 2026. Several states are reviewing or carrying over bills related to legalization, medical expansion, or criminal justice reform. Among those under active consideration are Pennsylvania, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas, each weighing changes ranging from expanded medical access to reduced penalties for possession. While not all proposals are expected to pass, the continued debate reflects shifting public opinion and political pressure. Taken together, 2026 could mark a turning point for cannabis in the United States. Federal rescheduling, tighter hemp regulation, increased medical research, and renewed state legislative efforts suggest a slow but steady move toward normalization, even as legal contradictions persist. For consumers, patients, and policymakers alike, the year ahead will help determine whether cannabis continues its gradual integration into American medicine, commerce, and culture, or remains caught between reform and restriction. And we are here to watch
Yes.
and act whenever possible
Stomping
to
that
help it.
stigma.
Yes,
Fighting the good fight every day, right, Ms.
that's right.
Weedman?
Yeah.
International news. In the Cayman Islands, voters backed decriminalizing small amounts of ganja and national lottery in April's referendum, but 8 months later, neither proposal has become law. Both issues were sent to the Law Reform Commission for detailed study on thresholds, penalties, definitions, regulations, and public impacts, meaning legal clarity and action are still in the pipeline. 8 months. Come on, Cayman Islands, let's go. Himachal Pradesh could be rolling out regulated cannabis cultivation within months under Chief Minister Sukhvinder Singh Sukhu's green to gold push, aiming to legalize controlled hemp and low THC cannabis for industrial, medicinal, and scientific use. With the pilot programs already approved and strict rules on THC limits and regulations, the move is meant to boost the rural incomes and transform illegal grows into regulated economic crop. Bosnia and Herzegovina just moved cannabis off the outright ban list and onto the strictly controlled medical track, letting doctors prescribe cannabis-based meds with tight production, storage, and oversight rules. It replaces blanket prohibition with regulated access, record keeping, and safety standards so patients can legally get treatment under doctor supervision. A big shift after years of advocacy for therapeutic use. And that's international news, everybody. Going back over to Mrs. Weedman, what your go-to cannabis products say about you, Mrs. Weedman?
Yeah.
What do they say about me, Mrs. Weedman? What do they say about everybody?
Everybody.
Tell us about it.
Well, everyone has a go-to, a cannabis product that they reach for without even thinking about it. And you might say it's just preference, but like coffee orders or astrology signs, your cannabis staple quietly gives you away. Here's what your go-to product might be saying about you. Flower, you value ritual. Grinding, packing, lighting, exhaling are all part of the experience, not just the end result. People who prefer flower often enjoy the sensory side of cannabis, from aroma to flavor to the rhythm of smoking. You likely appreciate variety, nuance, and the way cannabis can turn any ordinary moment into something more intentional. Pre-rolls, you're about simplicity, accessibility, and they make cannabis something that you can enjoy without much preparation. This choice often fits people who like cannabis to feel social, portable, and spontaneous. You want something reliable and familiar that fits naturally into your day. Vape cartridges. You value discretion and consistency. Vape users often like having more control over dose and timing and appreciate products that are easy to carry and use without drawing attention. For many people, vaping is a great way to integrate cannabis smoothly into daily life without the intensity of the smoke. Edibles, you're thoughtful about your experience. Edibles tend to appeal to people who enjoy a slower onset and longer lasting effects. You might like knowing exactly how much you're taking and planning your time around it. For many, edibles feel more intentional, like setting aside time for a specific kind of experience. Beverages, you're drawn to shared experiences. Cannabis drinks often appeal to people who enjoy social moments but want alternatives to alcohol, or who prefer a lighter, more gradual high. Flavor, atmosphere, and pacing matter to you, and cannabis feels like something that can enhance connections rather than overpowering them. Concentrates. You know what works for you. Concentrates are often chosen by people who are comfortable with their tolerance and looking for efficient, potent effects and potent. Potent? Is potent? What is that even? Is that even a word? This preference can reflect experience, confidence, and a desire for clarity in how cannabis makes you feel. Tinctures and topicals. You prioritize function. These products are often used by people focused on specific outcomes like sleep, pain relief, or relaxation rather than the feeling of being high itself. You may see cannabis as a tool for well being, something supportive and practical rather than performative. At the end of the day, your go to product can offer insight into how you relate to cannabis, whether you seek experience or convenience, subtlety or sensation, social connection or personal grounding. Your preferences may evolve over time, but the intention behind them often stays the same.
And that is
What your weed
tell us
says about you.
Yeah, I'm flower edibles mostly.
Yeah. I'm right there.
Concentrates.
Some concentrates.
Yeah. So we're old school. We love our flower. We flower children.
Flower.
Flower is power. That's for sure. Everybody, I want to apologize that we don't have video for you all, except for the anime that we do right now. Our studio's still not ready yet. We've been doing a lot of work, and we're not quite there yet. So between all the work we've been doing on the house, studio has not happened yet. Painting is happening, though, next week. So we'll get the studio painted and then carpet, and then we'll hopefully get lighting in here and get it decorated up. So I'm hoping by maybe sometime mid to late February, maybe March,
Yeah.
we'll have our first video again for you all and show off the new studio. But yeah, it's been a lot of work. Ms. Weedman's been killing it, kicking ass, taking names, and yeah. So it's a project. It's we've been almost in this house now for a month, 3 more days. It'll be a month. And Mrs. Weedman has gotten a lot of work with her bare hands, nitty-gritting it down into the work ethic that she has to get where we're at right now in 3.5 weeks. So proud of you, Mrs. Weedman.
Thanks, Mr. Weedman.
You're welcome. So
You've been doing some shit too.
Oh yeah, I know. But you've been getting all the contractors and all the work that we can't do done. But yeah, it's coming along, everybody. Just in case you're wondering, but hopefully we'll have the studio here sometime, maybe March, maybe by our 300th episode. So maybe sooner. We'll see. We'll keep you all in the loop the next few weeks. Ms. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
That's the end of the show.
That is it.
Got anything else to say before we go?
Happy New Year, everybody. Hopefully your 2026 is one of the best years yet.
Yeah. I love it. Hey, everybody out there in the world. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking with us now going into 2026. We appreciate you all. Once again, as I always say, we need some peace. We need some love. We need some kindness out there. Go get to living or get to dying. And as Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome, long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 decades, because a ninth decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.